Hi beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. This tutorial is a subscriber's request and I'll be taking you through the process of cutting and sewing. Please keep on watching and let's get started. I have 3 yards of linen fabric here and this is what I'll be using to recreate the style. Between 3 to 4 yards of fabric should be enough for the style depending on your size. I am starting with the front pattern and I have the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust line, the under bust line and the waist line. The length of this front pattern is 18 inches. I'll go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line and I'll connect with a straight line. I'll go in with a neck width of 3.5 inches. And I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope and I'll connect that into a straight line to meet the neck width. Next, on the chest line, I'll go in with the bust measurements divided by 4. I'll mark that and from the shoulder slope, I'll divide what I have left into 2 and get the midpoint. At the midpoint, I'll go in by 0.75. I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4 and I'll add 2 inches allowance for that and I'll connect that with a straight line. On the bust line, I'll go in with the nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. For mine it is 4 inches and I'll also mark it at the waistline and connect into a straight line. I'll come out by 1 inch on the waistline and connect that to the bust point. From the chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch and I'll bring in my curve to mark the neckline. I'll place the curve on the 1 inch point I came down and I'll connect that like you see me doing. I'll measure from the chest line to know how many inches I came up there and that is about 1.5. Next, I'll go in with the nipple to nipple measurement so that we can tighten the neckline that we have there. After connecting that into the bust point, I'll come out by ½ inch on both sides and I'll connect with a straight line to the bust point. To tighten the under bust, I'll come out by ½ inch on both sides there. I'll connect it to the waistline with a straight line and with a curve to the bust point. To form the first cup, I'll go up at the under bust line by 1 inch and I'll connect to the other side like you see me doing. So this is the first cup here. I'll label it 1 and I'll point arrows to the bust point. Now the next thing is to mark the bust dart, which is 2 inches from the bust line, and I'll connect that with a straight line to the bust point. For the yoke of this dress, I'll mark 3 inches from the shoulder slope and at the bottom here I'll mark 1.5 inches and I'll connect that together. So this will be the yoke for this dress. Label your pattern as you draft so that you don't get confused by the time you cut it out. I'll start cutting first so that we can close the bust dart before forming the second cup. You will notice from the thumbnail that there is a button allowance at the center here. That is why I am adding another piece of paper to the center front from the under bust line there. The paper I added there is 1 inch. That will serve as the button allowance. I'll close the bust dart now so that I can form the second cup. From the side, I'll go in by 1.5 inches and I'll bring in the curve and connect from the top there also to the other points there to form the second curve. Please label the curves in a way that you will understand so that by the time we cut it out, you won't be confused. For the back pattern, I have the shoulder line, the chest line and the waistline. The length of this back pattern is 16 inches. I have a zip allowance of 1.5 inches there. And I tightened my center back with 0.75. I'll go in with the shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. I'll mark a neck width of 3.5 and I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope and I'll connect that into the neck width. Next, I'll go in with the bust measurements divided by 4. I'll mark that on the chest line. I'll divide what I have left from the shoulder slope into 2 and get the midpoint. At the midpoint, I'll go in by 0.5 and I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4 and I'll add 1 inch allowance for that and I'll connect that with a straight line. I'll go in with the nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. I'll mark that on the waistline. On the chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch and I'll connect into a straight line. I'll come out by ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg and I'll connect it like so. Just like we did with the front pattern, from the shoulder slope, I'll mark 3 inches. And for the neck depth for this back pattern, I'll go in with the neck depth of 2 inches and I'll connect with a curve. I'll extend it with a straight line into the zip allowance. That is all on the back pattern. I'll cut it out now. For the lower part of this dress, I'll be making use of my skirt pattern. I will alter this pattern to achieve the lower part of this dress. I have a button allowance of 1 inch by the side of the pattern. That button allowance will also serve as a zip allowance because I'll be using this pattern to cut both the front and the back. I'll close the waist dart and hold it down with a masking tape and I'll slash through from the lower part to the upper part. I will extend the dart line all the way to the bottom and mark it out like you see me doing. After marking that, I'll slash through till I get to the waistline. I have folded my fabric into 4 so that I can cut both the front and the back together. So you are going to spread this pattern as much as you want. I am working with 3 yards of fabric. I didn't spread this pattern as much as I wanted. That is why I said from the beginning of the video that between 3 yards to 4 yards of fabric should be enough for the style. So whichever way you want it, you can spread your pattern as much as you want. While cutting, add the necessary allowance to the top, bottom and the sides of the pattern. I have 4 pieces here, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. Remember, we have a button allowance in front and a zip allowance at the back. This is the back half length pattern and I have transferred to fabric. I added all the necessary allowance and what I'm going to do is to cut out a facing for the neckline. I won't be making use of a lining, I'll only cut out a facing for this back. And after fixing the facing, I'll go ahead and stitch the darts in place. These are my front pieces and I have added all the necessary allowance. You can see I have allowances all around the pattern. So please add all the allowances while transferring to fabric. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut out my lining for all these pieces. For this part, I'll be making use of the same linen fabric as my lining. So both the main fabric and the lining will be the same fabric. I have cut out my lining. You can see I have 4 pieces on each of the patterns. For the cup, the one I cut out earlier is the lining. So after cutting that, I just used a masking tape to hold the 2 pieces of the cup together so that we can have just one cup. I am going to slash this pattern and place it on the fabric. Please take note of where I am slashing this cup from. I am slashing from the center front of the cup. This one I'm going to cut out here will be the main fabric for the cup. My fabric is folded into 2. I have pinned it on the fabric and I'm just going to cut out, leaving a space of ½ inch all around the pattern. The essence of slashing this cup is just so that we can be able to pleat the center of this cup, so it will give us room to pleat. When I place the side of the cup on this new one we cut out, you can see that it matches properly. The only part where we have excess is the center front of the cup. Just like I am doing here, please label your cup. For this new piece I cut out, I'm just going to run a gather stitch at the center front there. You can make a gather stitch or just pleat it. After pleating or making a gather there, make sure that it comes to the size of the lining. But for the lining, I'll just go ahead and pin it together, right side facing each other, and I'll go ahead and use ½ inch to stitch. I'll do the same thing for the other lining piece, pin it together and go ahead and stitch with ½ inch. But for this lining piece, I'll add interfacing on it before stitching. After stitching, this is what I have. Please press open your seam. Press it after stitching and make sure that your seam is open. I'll place the lining piece together and go ahead and stitch the center using ½ inch. I'll do the same thing for the main fabric. I am done joining the center together here, and the next thing is to go ahead and join the neckline area. Just join the top of the cup together. This is after I was done stitching, and this is what we have. This is the lower part of the half length, and I have joined the pieces together. This part that you can see here that I'm marking here is the center front. The button allowance of the center front is what you see me marking here, which is 1.5. Remember, we added 1 inch to the pattern, and while transferring to fabric I added ½ inch, so making 1.5 inches is what I marked there. And I'll go ahead and stitch the top with ½ inch, and I'll take it all the way down and also stitch the center there with ½ inch. I'll repeat the same process on the other side. After stitching, this is what I have. The right side is where the loops for the button will be. On the right side, I'll trim out ½ inch allowance away from it. I'm leaving the ½ inch there so that I'll fix the loops and turn it in with ½ inch. I hope you guys understand what I mean. This part where I trimmed out the ½ inch is not necessary. Please fix in the loops before turning it. This is after I was done fixing the loops, and this is what the front is going to look like. The loop for the button is on the right side, so the right side will overlap on the left side. And I'm going to bring in the cup part now. I'll start fixing from the center and I'll take it to the right and also take it to the left. But first start fixing your cup from the center, then you can take it from the right to the left. I am done fixing the cup here, and I finished the inside with the overlocker and I pressed it. So please use your tailor's arm to press the bust part. The next step is to fix in the yoke. I'm just going to place the yoke like you see me doing and just run a stitch on it. I'm just going to do like a top stitch on the fabric and the yoke together. The next step is to attach the lower part of the front. We have 2 pieces for the lower part. The part that will be on the right side where the loops for the button will be attached to, I cut out a facing for it. I just cut out a long piece of fabric of about 1.5 inches and I'm just going to stitch it on the part where we'll have the loops. I'll put my loops in between and place the facing on it and stitch it together. Please fix your loops in between the facing and the main fabric, and after stitching I'll turn it to the wrong side. And for the left side, I'm just going to fold it twice. This is after I was done stitching, and this is what we have. The part where I have the loops, I use the hemming gum to press it properly. If you don't want to use the hemming gum, you can also run a stitch on it to secure it together. I'm going to place the two pieces on each other, make sure that it overlaps, pin it together, and then place the upper part on it and go ahead and run a stitch to secure it together. For the back, I have fixed the facing, I have stitched the dart in place, and on my zip allowance, I ironed interfacing on it. The next step is to attach it to the lower part. I'm just going to place it on each other, right side facing, and I'll go ahead and stitch with 1/2 inch. This is after I was done joining the back, and I also fixed my zip. The next step is to join both the front and the back together. I'll first join it at the shoulder, place it together, and use the back facing to cover the two pieces together, and then run a stitch on it. I'll repeat the same process on the other side. Use the back facing to cover both the front and the back, and then go ahead and stitch with 1/2 inch. After that, I'll join the sides together all the way from the armhole to the bottom. For the sleeve, I'll be making use of my basic sleeve pattern. I have a tutorial on how to draft a basic sleeve on the channel. Please do check it out. I'll be making use of the slash and spread method for the sleeve. I'll draw slash lines and then cut it. I won't cut it through. My fabric is folded into two, and I extended the cap of this pattern by 3 inches at the top, and I'm adding 1.5 inches allowance at the bottom. After adding the allowance, I'll cut it out. I have used this first one to cut out a second sleeve. On a second note, I just decided to trim out the excess I added at the top, so I'm only left with 1/2 inch at the top of the pattern. I'll take out the pattern now so that we can see what we have. But first, the 1.5 inches I added at the bottom, I'll notch it. That is the point where we are going to fix the elastic on the sleeve. I opened up the sleeve here to explain how to go about the elastic. Just mark 1.5 inches from the bottom, and that is where you are going to put your elastic. This is after I was done joining the sides of the dress. I have fixed my button here. I didn't complete the buttons because I ran out of buttons. But this is what the dress is looking like. After joining the sides, please finish it up with your overlocker and press it. And at the bottom, I hemmed it with 1/2 inch. The next step is to attach the sleeves to the dress. I have fixed the elastic, and this is what your sleeve should be looking like. Hem the bottom of the sleeve with 1/2 inch and then fold it together like this and close the sides. I have closed the side of this other sleeve, and I'm just going to attach it to the armhole of the dress. Whatever excess I have on the sleeve, I'm just going to pleat it at the top. Thank you guys for watching. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, leave a comment, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. Please turn on your notification bell so you'll get notified anytime I upload a new video. and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.